November 6, 1991. A letter Gaskins sent to a pen pal, quote, "Brother Richard, if it hadn't been for this old man last year, I would have died here in the hole. I know I owe him my life, and I can't stand to see him shit on." End quote. Also, a signed photo of Gaskins with a friend, original Gaskins artwork, and prison money from his jail in South Carolina. So, I think we have the photo with a friend, some artwork, and the letter that he wrote, That's interesting. I really like this book. I'm learning some things about history while indulging in true crime. So the next one is 14, pitied by the Yorkshire. English is not a straightforward language. There are really some words that if you've never heard someone say them, like there's no way you're gonna know how to say it just by reading it, if that makes sense. And that's like pissing me off. That's what pisses me off about the English language. And that is coming from a native English speaker. But anyway, on May 22nd, 1981, Peter Sutcliffe was found guilty of murdering 13 women and attempting to murder 7 others. Sutcliffe, who had been dubbed the Yorkshire Ripper by the press, was sentenced to 20 concurrent life sentences. While incarcerated at H.M. Prison Parkhurst, Sutcliffe was attacked multiple times by fellow inmates, and despite being found sane at his trial in March 1984, he was sent to Broadmoor, a high-security psychiatric hospital. Here, Sutcliffe continued to be attacked, and after one incident, he lost the use of his left eye, and his right eye was severely damaged. In Broadmoor, Sutcliffe met Larry Perry, a fellow inmate convicted of attempting to kill his wife, and despite the gun being fake, he was given a life sentence. Perry's family disowned him and refused to see or speak to him. When Perry lamented to Sutcliffe how much he loved and missed his children, Sutcliffe took pity and painted portraits of Perry's children to comfort him. 17 years into his sentence, a social worker looked into Perry's case and was convinced he should have been convicted and sentenced. 17 years into his sentence, a social worker looked into Perry's case and was convinced he never should have been convicted and sentenced. She spearheaded an investigation, and Perry was eventually released. One of the paintings that Sutcliffe made of Perry Larry's son, presumably from a school photograph. The other photo shows a true crime trading card from 1992. This is the photo or the painting that he painted for Perry. He painted this little painting of Perry's son to comfort him, and there is a picture of Peter Sutcliffe. I tried my very best to pronounce his name, but again, never heard his name before. Haven't heard of this story, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah. We're on to the second chapter, A Curator of Crime. Let's see. despite killing 19 people, became something of a folk hero as he evaded capture for 16 years. One of the last of the old school Boston gangsters, Bulger was eventually apprehended in June 2011 and handed not one, but two life sentences. On October 30th, 2018, guards found 89-year-old Bulger dead. He was slumped in his wheelchair, having been beaten to death by multiple inmates wielding a padlock wrapped in a sock and a prison shank. That sounds violent. His eye had almost been gouged out and his tongue nearly cut off. Some people never escape ratting on the mob. Ooh. Sneakers worn by the infamous mobster, who would only wear clothes for short periods before throwing them away. The glass oil and vinegar set was on Whitey's kitchen table when he was arrested. Both items were obtained through the U.S. Marshal Service. So there are, where is it? There it is. His sneakers. Please excuse me, I need to clear my throat. Number two. Flowers for the departed souls, ? 17-year-old Elmer Wayne Henley was a reluctant yet cooperating participant in the RAPE, torture and murder of over 28 teenage boys and young men at the hands of 33-year-old Dean Corll. However, on the night of August 8th, 1973, Henley's conscience got the best of him, and as Corll was about to abuse his next victim, Henley shot Corll to death. Despite being so young and having been manipulated by Corll, Henley was sentenced to 594 years in prison. Why can't it just be life? Why are there so many years? I'm not necessarily complaining, but it's just a question. lemonade. It's like you made the best out of like what you were dealt with. You kind of like benefit from it, but also like, what? People are just interesting. The collector was willing to donate the P. Still, she insisted on sending him the pellet to express her appreciation and to show how the loss of the pellet empowered her to go on and not to find herself as a victim. That's one way to look at it. I don't hate it. Alrighty. Okay, number 4. Killer's commission. The close personal relationships Anthony has developed with inmates are reflected in the fact that several have made portraits of him. The piece by Lee Boyd Melville was for a book Anthony was writing, while the other 2 were given as gifts, based on personal visits or pictures he had sent. Says Anthony, quote, "It is odd to see how you look like to someone else, particularly when the 3 combined have a known death toll of over 35 people." The red and black painting was made by the cross-country killer Glenn Rogers. Elmer Wayne Henley, accomplice to the Candy Man, Dean Coral, created the charcoal painting. The ink portrait was done by Lee Boyd Melville, the DC sniper. So these whose work was in high demand, particularly those featuring his alter ego, Pogo the Clown. The Casey piece, entitled Stored Wall, was commissioned by its original owner in 1984, but he was too creeped out by it and sold it shortly after. It is widely considered among the Stradivarius' rarest and most covetable of Casey's paintings due to the celebrities and true crime collectors who have owned it. It depicts Casey's alter ego standing in the cemetery, which was unusual as Casey always denied his guilt. And there it is, ladies and gents, and everybody in between. There is the painting. There's the painting of his alter ego. The painting of his alter ego. The painting of his alter ego. Look right there. Look at that. He said that he didn't. He says that he's not guilty. Then would you paint this about you? Why would you paint this if you were not guilty? That is a very, very interesting thing to do. But anyway, we digress. So number 7, excuse me, the hand of death. Many policing agencies do not take palm prints of inmates when arrested. Anthony notes, quote, given the number of cold cases that partial prints have solved, I have always found these to be possible tools. I also compare the portion of a given inmate's hand to their height and weight. The fingerprints also yield injuries, cuts, and attributes such as the types of his little